What's up, everyone? My name is Edson Cardona, and I want to welcome you guys to the Let's Kick It series. On these episodes, we get the pleasure to be joined by professional athletes, get a little insight on their background and how they made it this far in their athletic careers. A conversation between athletes about their journeys leading them to success. I hope you guys enjoy. What's up, everyone? Hope you are keeping safe with the COVID-19 pandemic, and my hope is that we're all doing our part and standing in solidarity with the racial justice movement and against police brutality because Black Lives Matter. My name is Edson Cardona, and I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Let's Kick It series. On this episode, I have the honor to introduce Janae Gonzalez. Born in Los Angeles, raised in Folsom, California, played for multiple teams growing up, San Juan, Boca, and the Blues. Member of the U17 Mexican women's national team for the 2013 World Cup Qualifiers and for the 2014 World Cup. Went to Santa Clara University, where she was WCC All-Freshman Team and WCC All-Academic Team as well. Went to UC Davis and transferred there, where she was also 2019 All Big West First Team and Big West Academic All Conference Team, and went and signed her first professional contract to America in Mexico. So without further ado, I want to welcome Janae. Janae, how you doing?
Hi, thank you for having me. That was a lot.
No problem. I want to thank you for being part of this week's episode on the Let's Kick It series. I know you guys have season going on right now, but I appreciate it and can't wait to get started. So
Yay, I'm excited.
So let's get started and go right to it. So everyone has their story on being an athlete and how they started, soccer, basketball, whatever sport they decided to do as a kid. So when did your journey begin as an athlete?
Okay, I always think of it in three different parts. So first, when I first started soccer, when you're 4 years old and you're just put into rec leagues, boys and girls, just that, I guess, where I started soccer. And then I would say also when I was 9, because that's when I was on my first competitive soccer team. So it was a bit different. It was San Juan. So just a whole different atmosphere. And I really wanted to play there because my older brother played for that club and I wanted to be like him. So I wanted to be a competitive soccer player like him. And then the third part, I would say when I was like 13, I made a bunch of goals for myself and they just were all surrounded around soccer. And that's kind of also when I decided that soccer would be the only sport I'd play.
That's awesome to hear. Like at a young age, you get to play sports and see what you like the most. And you found out that soccer was your passion and you already knew that all these goals that you wanted to do, created this circle and around, soccer. And now we can see that you're a professional athlete playing, in the big leagues, and that all paid off when you're a young kid. And can you tell me a little bit about your journey as youth playing, like you said, playing with Blues, playing with San Juan, and then going into high school and university level? I mean, how was that for you now getting the looks to play at a D1 college?
Okay, so in whole club youth soccer, I never made an A team, and it was sometimes defeating, but also is all good. But there are two main clubs in the Sacramento area, San Juan and Placer. And I would go every year to try out for the A team and I'd never make it. And I would always be told it's because I'm too small, I'm too short, I won't be able to succeed in the A team level. And so then I eventually decided to stop trying out for those teams and I moved to a club called Placer Blues, which is now I think just Blues or maybe California Blues. I'm not really sure. They changed their name. But I went there because my dad knew who the coach of my age group was going to be. It was the first year of the club and they only had a handful of teams. And my dad was like, you know what? I know that you really want to be on the A team of this club, but I think this could be good for you. This is the coach. I think, just go to the tryout, see what you think. And I remember I had the worst tryout of my life. And it was like, it was so bad that people who knew me were like, were you just not playing today? I don't know. I think I was just so nervous, but I made the team. And I think it was afterwards, my dad even told me, he was like, well, it's a good thing that he saw you play before the tryouts or you wouldn't have made the team. Um, but I made the team and his name is Greg Thompson. He national team player and now his sons are all playing pro or college or doing amazing things. And then his daughter was on my team. And so he was my coach for 5 straight years. And obviously, or not obviously, but throughout the years, I was getting better and I was contacted by the other bigger clubs saying, hey, now you can be on the A team. And I chose not to leave because I think one of the main things with Greg is if you know him, he's not much taller than I am. And it was the first coach that never talked about my size or my height and how that could hinder my ability of competing. Just was never a topic. And so I think that really changed, I don't know, how I viewed soccer. And this is around the same time when I told you when I was 13 and I decided this is really what I want to do. It was my first year with Greg. And so I'd say that was like my club youth. But since we weren't the best team and didn't get into the best tournaments, I guest played a lot. And he was super great about just letting me play for whoever I wanted to, as long as I wasn't missing any of our games or anything. So I was a discovery player for ECNL or whatever for MVLA, Davis Legacy, and then I would just play for local clubs all the time. And then for high school, I was thankful I played all 4 years. And for me, that was always like something I'm really happy I did because I never was teammates with people I went to high school with, just because the girls who were on my blues team, they were from more Roseville, Rockland area. And so I think only like 1 or 2 girls were from Folsom throughout my like 5 years with the team. So I loved high school. That was fun. And then what was the rest of the question? Into college or?
Yeah, and so how was it transitioning, getting those looks from colleges now once you're getting the looks, at the young age, having Greg let you go play for different, clubs, and now that getting that exposure, how was that for you after getting those, scholarship offers and all this stuff from D1, colleges?
Yeah, so I would say about when I was like 14, 15 is when I started getting contacted by colleges. And it was around the same time I was finally on the first team for ODP too. It was just like finally starting to not be overlooked, I guess. And so I did a lot of ODP stuff. That's mainly where colleges saw me. Because at the time that was like the big thing. And your state coach or whatever was usually a college coach. So that's kind of where my process started. And then when I really knew where I wanted to go, I kind of like put it down to 3 schools. that's another main reason why I really wanted to play for MVLA, because they're in the same neighborhood as Santa Clara, and I really wanted the coach to come watch me play, and so it was just easier because the home games were really close. So, yeah, it would definitely be from ODP, and then some other small tournaments, like when coaches are just there, and my poor father handled all of the emails because I couldn't. Um, and then I did all the phone calls. I was really that was, like, something that I think they told us at ODP, like, you really need to not just send emails, see if you can call them or whatever, and I am good at not good at talking. I enjoy talking, so it was never a problem for me to just call coaches, so I would call coaches all the time, and when I ended up committing to Santa Clara, I remember the hardest thing for me to do was call all of the other coaches that I would be in pretty contact with and tell them that I committed. It was so sad because I felt like I had like made a friend and then I was like, just kidding. But no, it was definitely really weird for me because I would say when I was like 11, 12, I was almost at the point of maybe soccer's not for me. And then 14, 15, I was at the point of I am going to commit to the best school on the best scholarship, and I'm not going to take anything else. So yeah, it was a really hard shift.
Definitely. I mean, players at a young age go through so much, right? And they go through ups and downs on whether or not they want to keep on playing that certain sport, or, if even you, when you weren't getting put on the A team, like at a young age, that was like terrifying to hear. Like, oh my God, I can't play for the team that I wanted to because I'm not good enough, in quotes. And it's like deteriorates, your inside, your mental, and how you feel as a player that you're not good enough. And so, like you said, you never gave up, and that's something that I can applaud. Because a lot of athletes at a young age, kids in general, they get told they're not good, and it's like, okay, I gotta just hang up the boots since I'm not good enough. But you stuck to it, and you set your goals, which is amazing because a lot of kids at that age can't and don't really do it. And so you did, and you got your chance. And now that you're talking about going to Santa Clara, I mean, how was that for you now joining a D1 team, such a great team, Santa Clara when you were there were top, top, top teams, top tier in the NCAA tournaments. So how was that for you transitioning now to the college level, being at a university? If you can tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, I would say I would probably have a really hard time transitioning if it wasn't for my experience with the national team because I mean, I love my club and everything, but we never were like the top team. And so I feel like that would have been a horrible transition. So I'm thankful for my experiences at like camps and stuff as well. Because I felt like my transition was really smooth. Soccer wise, school wise is different. But soccer wise, I just was so happy and thankful and like knowing that everyone on my team, it was kind of like the team where everyone on the team was the best at their club or the best in their area. And then they come together to a team. And now just every practice is so competitive and so high level and so fun. And you're all of a sudden doing things that you didn't realize that you could do because you see someone else do it. And then you're like, oh, I want to try that. And so I just felt like I was getting better all the time, even though I guess I could have looked at it as like, "Oh my gosh, they can do all this stuff, I can't do any of that." But then it just made me think like, "Okay, maybe I can, I'll try." And so I just felt like I was improving a lot, learning a lot, and one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Santa Clara is because of like the coach, knowing his experience and knowing probably how much he could teach me, so I was very attentive all the time or very like asking a lot of questions or just wanting to learn and learn about the program, myself, the team, I don't know. So for me, like soccer wise, the transition was like just so much fun.
That's kind of like the best feeling, right? When you're able to go to a place, even though knowing that you're one of the best players in your team at a young age, you know, your club, going to university now and being part of that as well. Now seeing that there's so many players around you that are also at that high level, and just being able, like you said, get better, which is the best thing as an athlete, being able to play at a high level consistently and know, okay, this is the things that I have to work on. This is the things that I have to do to get better. And so I'm going to do it so that I can, you know, grow as an athlete and become the best that I want to be. And so we spoke a little bit about your obstacles that you've had, you know, in your past, but are there any other obstacles that you faced, you know, throughout college, and how did you overcome them?
Yes. Okay. So I would say I'm like because obviously you already said that I transferred and played at UC Davis. So I was at Santa Clara for 2.5 years. I played 2 seasons, my freshman and sophomore. And then I would say everything on paper was like, wow, she's living the best life, like you said, freshman all team or stuff like that. And then I was able to be a part of leadership group starting my freshman year, and just and my grades were really good. Just like anything that you can put on paper, really, it was like I was having the best experience. Um, but, behind that, I was struggling a lot mental health-wise, and it is something like my first, I guess, occurrence of bad thoughts happened when I was around, like, 10, 11, and so it's something that I was dealing with for a while, but for some reason, I was just going through a really bad downward spiral around, I don't know, I guess sophomore year. But it was something I was in communication with a lot of people, including my coach. And then my junior year, it was before school started, but we were practicing for season, and I just was having an overwhelming amount of panic attacks, and I couldn't really control it anymore. And I was really frustrated because we had just like voted captains, and I was voted a captain, and I was, walking into my junior year, and it was supposed to be like your best year, and you're upperclassmen and just, all of these great things. But I just was struggling so much. And I remember one practice, we were just doing a regular scrimmage, and I just like passed out. And it was just like a silent panic attack, I guess. And that then is when I decided that I couldn't finish the season. So I started taking the steps of, okay, how can I get a medical redshirt year, or how can I just get healthy? And so I thank my trainer and strength coach at the time, because they helped me so much, and they helped me become healthy. They helped me take all the necessary steps I needed to feel like myself again. And so I chose to sit the season out, and my role was a lot of film. I just wanted to help the team in some way. So I ended up doing a lot of film for the team, whether it was individual or if my coach said, "Oh, I want film like of all of our attacks from this game." So I would do that, and then it would be ready for the next team meeting or something like that. So that's mainly all I did junior year. And then by the end of the season, I had decided I just needed a fresh start. And so that's when I told my coach, I think I'm just going to transfer. I think I just need a fresh start. But I went from a point of not being able to jog for 20 minutes without passing out because of heart rate, like just anxiety, to by the end of the season, I was able to work out and everything was fine and I was feeling good. And I had chosen like medications to help me. And so everything was good. And I just wanted to keep going good. And so I decided to transfer. So that was obviously like a big obstacle for me because everything was so perfect on paper, but I had to decide what was best for me overall. And I was really sad because I love Santa Clara. I still really connect with the people there. I'm still in good relations with my coaches and my trainer, my strength coach. And then obviously I made best friends there. And so it was really hard because it's not like I really, really wanted to leave, but I just knew that I needed to. And so then that was in December. I transferred and I started school at Davis in January. January, I can't talk. And I was completely upfront with the coach about why I was transferring, why I didn't play this last season, why I wouldn't be in shape necessarily. And she was super supportive. And so that really helped me. And then as soon as I was at Davis, I had, new counselor, new doctor, all this stuff set up just for me to make sure that everything was good. And so that was like, I think the best, I guess, fresh start that I could have asked for. And then as far as the redshirt year, it was really it was a lot, and I am very thankful for the trainer at Santa Clara because he basically did everything for me to help me get my year back because he had documented any time that I had a anxiety or panic attack at practice or anything like that, and then documented like all of my counseling and all of my medication, appointments, all this stuff, so that there was somewhat proof. Because say if it was like a different injury, like I don't know, an ACL, you have the proof of the day, you have the proof of the surgery and all that stuff. And NCAA had told us that sometimes people will like try to get a redshirt year back just because they didn't play, and that they just had to make sure that that wasn't the case. And so he did a lot, and then I switched to Big West Conference. And when we went with them to the paperwork, they told us that they couldn't approve it because they didn't have any protocols for mental health, and that we had to go straight to NCAA headquarters. So then my trainer took everything there and they approved it like within a day. So that was really cool. But they had asked me for letters from like a few different people, like I think my head coach, and then the trainer, my therapist at Santa Clara, like a bunch of people like that. And so it was definitely a different process. And then they ended up telling me that I was the first person to receive a medical red shirt based off of mental health. So it was kind of cool too. But yeah, that was about it.
I mean, I think it's very important, as an athlete to know how you are mentally. I mean, it goes hand in hand with the game. And if you're mentally not there, you're not going to be able to perform. And like you said it best, I mean, you knew when at that moment, at that, scrimmage game that you weren't in it. So you needed to do something different. And there's a lot of athletes who stick with it and end up hating the game because of it. I mean, there's a lot of athletes who, say, oh man, I hated this part of training and I did this, but never was it, okay, what is it deep down, internally? How could I change or what can I do to get better? And like you said, you're able to transfer out and you felt great. I mean, you had the support, which is amazing, from your coaches from Santa Clara. And then you had the support from your coaches in Davis. So all that, you put into perspective, and it's a blessing to see, you are able to talk about it now as well, to let people know like mental health is so important to athletes. I mean, a lot of people are scared or, they get, I don't know, shy to talk about it or embarrassed, to say, I have mental issues. But it is very important to know that mentally you have to be strong to succeed in whatever you do. It can be a job, 8 to 5 job, anything. But at the end of the day, if you're mentally not there, then it's going to be very hard for you to succeed. So I'm happy for you. I'm happy that you're able to see the good in that. And of course, at the time it was hard, but now you're able to know, okay, these are things that make me happy. And this is what I had to do to grow, And so now that you're able to finish at UC Davis, you're able to sign your first contract in America. And so if you can tell me a little bit about that. I know it's in Mexico, you had to go away from family, but I know you got family out there too. But how was that experience of, getting that first contract, signing it, getting your name, on your jersey? That's what we all dream about as young kids. So how was that for you?
Okay. Wait, first I'm gonna just comment on one of the best things that came out of all of that is when I finally like told my teammates or what was happening, the amount of people that then confided in me about their like that was just the best part. And then yeah. Okay. So signing for America. Well, I would say that I like throughout college, you go through things like what are you going to do after college? And, go through these workshops and see if you like this or this major or that. And I just felt like it was so weird because no matter what, all I thought was I just want to keep playing. And I never was super interested in anything else. Like nothing else interested me. And so that's when I knew like, okay, I better really make this happen or I'm not going to do anything after college. And so I was in my last season and my last game was October 31st and of 2019. And then the next like 2 weeks, I just spent so much time doing film, make my little tape to send to teams. And then I ended up being contacted by a different team in Mexico and I was super excited, and they asked to fly me and my dad out to visit the club and watch a game because they were in season at the time. And I didn't really like think, okay, I want to play in Mexico or I want to play here, I want to play here. I just thought I want to be a pro player. So I was just super, super excited. And my dad and I got flown out and we got treated like royalty. It was so weird. My dad was like the whole time my dad kept asking me, "Are they sure they know who you are?" Because they were just being so nice and like obviously they wanted me to come to the team and the contract was very nice, but in the back of my head I was thinking, "Oh, my coach from the U17s also has a team in Mexico and I already know that I really like him as a coach." And I know a couple players on the team because they were on my U17 team. And so I was like, Dad, like this was amazing, but when we get home, do you think we could contact Leo? And so my dad was like, okay. And then I called him, and then immediately he was like, let's fly you and your dad out. And so the next weekend we go out, and this is in now late November. So this is like, it was just like back to back to back. Like I ended my season late October, started doing my tape, and then now I'm doing visits or whatever. And when we visited here, Mexico City, where I am, it was like just so surreal. I knew that this was a huge club in Mexico, obviously, because whether you even know of the league, you at least know the logo. Like all of my friends at home that aren't Mexican at all, they knew where I was going. And so I knew that was like a really big club. But then once you're at the club, like, it just felt so important. I just felt like, "Oh my gosh, like, I need to, like, walk better, look better." Like, I am so thankful to be here. It is so, like, important that I'm here because it's such an important place to be. I don't know, it just, like, was this feeling, and then, my dad is a Chivas fan, so he wasn't the happiest, but even when we went to the stadium, Estadio Azteca, where they've hosted huge games. Um, and we walked in there and it was just us and the people giving us the tour in the whole stadium. And I think my dad really was like, I can't believe this is real. Like, this could possibly be your home field. Like, this. And then when I saw him like that, then I got more nervous. Like, oh my gosh, should I really be doing this? Like, do I deserve this? Because it was just like the feeling that we got was just like, wow, this is something that I'm never maybe going to feel again because this is special. And so I had a lot of thinking to do because there was pros and cons to both teams. But overall, kind of what I already like hinted at, I mainly wanted to sign here because I had already known the coach. how he coached, knew that I would be, compatible with that. And also just feeling a little bit better about knowing a couple of the players. Um, so yeah, it was a crazy feeling, and I was actually in Italy when I signed my contract because for my graduation present, my dad and I were in Europe for a week, and we watched 5 soccer games in all the different leagues, like, we went to London, Germany, we saw an El Clasico, and so it was, like, in the middle of that trip, they sent the contract, and then I signed it there, and we got back from the trip the 23rd of December, and then I came here to Mexico City the 27th. So everything was just like so fast and but amazing. And then so I got here the 27th, and then less than 2 weeks later was my debut, like my professional debut. So I was really like, oh my gosh, it was, like, so crazy. Thank goodness we won that game because there was a lot of people there, and then my dad flew out hoping that I would get subbed in, and I did, so that's good. But, yeah, it's just, like, so crazy, and then my dad had, like, a hat made with my number on it and just all this stuff, and then, like, people I didn't know, like, yelling my name at the game, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," and so there's just, like, so many crazy things that happened so quickly, and I don't even know how to explain the feeling altogether, but it was just more like I think I'm just still in shock.
I think that's the best feeling, right? Being able to finally go to that one place that you wanted to play for. And like you said, being able to know the coach and that feeling that you got when you walked into the stadium, this like surreal moment. And you're just, it's shocked, you're speechless and don't know really what to say. And like you said, once you saw your dad, it was like, wow, like this might be happening. And so that's just amazing to hear about. And I mean, that's what all athletes, that's what we, strive for and try to get to, getting that professional contract. And I'm so happy for you that you're playing for America and you're happy and you got to play for the team that you wanted to. And so I mean, if you can talk a little bit more about your debut. I mean, I know it's scary, but how was it when you're like getting subbed in? And I mean, that feeling, I know you're so nervous to walk in the field, but so many thousands of people watching you. And it's like, how was that moment for you to just go in and play your first professional game?
Oh my gosh, okay. So, we were playing against Cruz Azul. It was an away game, but they're also a home team. They're in the same city. So, there's a lot of fans from both teams, and so when I'm warming up, it's, like, at the corner of 8 corner. And so then you have like the wraparound of the stadium. So there's just so many people right there at the corner where you're warming up, yelling at you. And I was like, oh my God, I don't want to mess up. And oh gosh, it was so nerve-wracking. And then my coach, oh, also, if you don't know, Mexico City elevation is like way high. And it takes like at least 3 weeks to really, like, get used to it, and then the smog and all that stuff. And so I had only been there, like, a couple weeks, maybe 3, and so just in the warm up, I was dying, like, I could barely breathe. And so I was also just really nervous because I was like, "Am I even gonna last?" And then I have nerves, so then your breathing is even worse. And my coach called me to get subbed in. It was like the 30th minute of the first half. And I was like, oh my God, like I'm gonna have to play a little bit and a whole half. I don't know. And so then I'm like standing there, and then he ends up not subbing me in. He's like, sorry, it just didn't work out. We'll just sub you in at halftime. I was like, okay. So I think that was also a good thing because I got like so much nerves and stuff out because I thought I was about to go in and then I didn't. So then I finally get subbed in at halftime with my teammate Hannah, which was really nice because when we were like waiting to at the half field with our little like cards of who we were going in for, when we were waiting to get subbed in, she just like gave me a lot of words of encouragement, and she has played in the league since it started, and so that was really nice. And I wasn't like alone. She was like there talking to me, so then, yeah, I get subbed in. I played the second half. I end up getting subbed out before the game was over because I couldn't breathe. But before that happened, I ended up crossing a ball and then my teammate scored. So I got an assist and we won 2-1 on that goal. So that was really nice. So I don't think anyone remembered that I had to get subbed out because I couldn't breathe. So that's good. Um, yeah, and then it was just really crazy. And then after the game, like when we're doing our cool down, the fans will like hang off the railings of the closest, like to the closest of the field. They're throwing jerseys at you and Sharpies at you and like asking you to sign. And I'm just like still thinking, like, are you sure you want me to ruin your jersey with my signature? Like, I don't know. Or like phone cases and like all this like nice stuff. And I'm just like, are you sure? I don't know. And then after we showered and stuff, my dad was or our families were waiting by the bus. So then I got to hug my dad after my debut. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like, can you believe it? And then my dad was just like, why couldn't you last? And I was just like, I was tired. It was a lot. But no, it was amazing. And I'm just, yeah, I'm really thankful.
That's an amazing story. And like you said, the elevation in Mexico, especially, everyone talks about when they go to Estadio Azteca. It's just crazy, and you got to really, really prepare. But I'm happy for you, and that's amazing to hear that you got an assist on your debut. You know, not a lot of people get the chance to even be there. You know, and it's just amazing that you got that chance and were able to, you know, create something. And like you said, you guys won on that 2-1 goal, so that even makes it a better feeling. And being able to have your dad there, I mean, having that support, you know, from your family is amazing. I mean, I know what that is, you know, having a great family around me, and I can see it with you too. Your dad was able to go out there, and being able to have him there, you know, is kind of like weight off your shoulders, that you know there's someone watching you, you know, which is your, you know, dad. And I've had my dad come out a lot as well, so it's just like having that presence, you know, of your dad there. It's just like, wow, like I'm okay. Like if I'm messing up, I can just look at him, and okay, he'll tell me if I'm doing good or bad. And like you said, your dad, the first thing he said was, why couldn't you last the whole game? And that's what they want, right? They always want the best for us or want us to do better. But like I said, you having your dad there is amazing, and having that support system from your family is great. That kind of goes to my next question. So, who do you credit your success to?
Good question. So, well, I mean, I think any athlete should always credit themselves because in the end, you're the one putting in the hours or the work or whatever. And so I'll never forget that. I remember like I I would always think I credit Greg Thompson a lot and I would always thank him like so much for everything he did for me or like, oh my gosh, like I got this opportunity for you, like because of you. And he would always tell me like, "No, like it was all you. I didn't do anything." And so I think like that will always remind me to credit myself, but in general, just people who made me know that they believed in me and like, not just you know what I mean. But then in like the top, definitely my parents. Um I always find it really funny because thinking about my whole childhood experience, then high school, then college. My parents like almost never missed anything. Like they went to every single game in club, obviously in college. In my senior year of college, even if it was in different states or whatever, they flew to every single game with my little siblings. It was extremely important to them to make me feel supported no matter what. And even if they didn't even have the money to travel, they just figure it out. They drive or something. They just were always there. Or I remember after college or after I started college and then I come home and I do like pickup games or something in indoor leagues, my parents would want to go. Like they just love watching me play and supporting me and yelling at me. I don't know. But they just were always there and they never I want to say they never questioned me, but it was more based off like when I was younger, say like 12 and I didn't have a bike yet and there's no field nearby where I could walk to, I would just constantly be asking my parents, like, can you just drive me to this field? Can you just go can you do, and they just never questioned me, but they also they never told me what I needed to do or what I should do, or it was just always me and them supporting me. Like my I remember them just always driving me to fields and then just waiting in the car until I had finished my whole little workout that I had made up all by myself or whatever. But I feel like their support to me is so important because their presence was always there, but not like, so they never forced me to do anything. They never wanted me to do something because they wanted it. It was just always if I brought it up or if I don't know, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, my parents, I definitely don't feel like I would be here without them. And then on like a where I really am now, definitely my dad helped a lot with the negotiations and the communications and um another huge thing that I've been overcoming is a language barrier because I wasn't fluent in Spanish, or maybe I'm still not. But so my dad helped me a lot with that stuff. But yeah, no, in general, just my parents, their support, their presence, their belief in me, but also their just ability to also take a step back and be like, okay, this is what you want, not what we want, and we're going to support what you want. And it was the same thing with signing here. My dad never told me, I don't want you to sign here, even though I know he didn't want me to because he's a Chivas fan, and I knew he wanted me to sign at the other club, but I knew that I wanted to be here. He never, even though all of my uncles, they definitely were very vocal about it. My dad's brothers, very vocal about me not coming here. My dad never was. He just wanted me to do whatever I wanted to do, and then he supported it after. And then my mom is the same. My mom wasn't a soccer person until my brother and I started playing soccer. So she's still like learning about the soccer world, but has completely, you know, accepted it and has been extremely supportive. And so, yeah, my parents.
At the end of the day, you know, as an athlete, having that support is amazing. And like you said, it's a blessing. You know, God gives us that, you know, every day, having our family there, being able to call them whenever we're feeling down, being able to just call them when we score a goal or get an assist. You know, they're always just waiting, you know, with the phone in their hand right after the game, ready to answer the FaceTime from you, you know, and answer and say, okay, good game, or this is what you got to do better. And like you said, your dad or your mom, your parents never really forced you to do and play soccer. I mean, it was all to you and they accepted that. And like you said, I mean, being a Chivas fan and seeing, I bet your dad see you go for America wasn't the best thing or best feeling, but he knew that that was, you know, what you wanted. And like you said, you're definitely happy to have him able, you know, to accept that and being able to always be there for you. You know, that's amazing because a lot of athletes, you know, they go abroad, they don't really have that. And, you know, they're us, you know, we're blessed to have that. And like you said, you're able to have your family out there, like be able to visit you, be able to see the games, and having your dad there being like your pretty much your agent, you know, going out and figuring out the contracts and all of that. It's just amazing. And like you said, being able to go out there and having them throughout all of this process when you're little, driving you to games, driving you to fields, all of this type of stuff, you definitely, like you said, credit them. And so my last question, and it is, I mean, the advice that you can give, you know, to your younger self, what would it be?
Okay. My advice to my younger self would just be to remember to have fun. I think what I mean is whether you're winning, you're losing, your team isn't so good, your team is really good, you're in a crappy tournament, a really good tournament, it doesn't matter. I just need to have fun all the time because that's why I do it. And I think it's really easy to, you know, when you're not playing well or you're losing or you're not starting or all these things, to just start thinking like, you know, excuse me, like I'm not having fun, this sucks. I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But then in reality, there's so many reasons why it is still fun. And you never know when your last club game is going to be, high school, college, your last game with specific teammates, a specific team, a coach. You never know. And so there's just always, to me, there's just always so many reasons to just enjoy and have fun. My current phrase right now is disfrutar, to just enjoy, because it's super easy to just think about all the hard things that are happening. Like with me currently, it was just my being injured and then not feeling in shape. But then at the same time, I'm thinking, I'm literally living my dream. What is there to complain about? I need to just enjoy it, have fun, because there's just, yeah, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's just so many reasons to just always be happy on the field or whatever. But I would just remind, because I'm just really competitive. So I remember in the past, if like my team was losing or if I felt like I wasn't playing well, I would just get really frustrated and not happy. And now I think about it and I'm just like, I could have been having fun just the same amount on in those games as well. So yeah, have fun.
Definitely, as an athlete, you want to, differentiate being able to have fun, get, be serious. There's times where you have to know, like, okay, I'm doing this because I love it, and at the end of the day, I'm always going to be smiling on the field and be happy when I'm touching a ball or shooting a ball, whatever sport you're doing. You definitely have to have fun and enjoy it 100%, because if not, then it becomes, like a drag, and you're just like, okay, I got to go to practice, or I got to do this, I got to do that. But at the end of the day, as an athlete, you got to definitely have fun. And we're going to talk a little bit more about, your U17 World Cup. And I know you got, I'm pretty sure, the goal of the tournament. And so how was that? Can you tell me a little bit about that? I mean, being in a World Cup, let alone getting, against Costa Rica goal and getting FIFA best goal, in 2014. And so how was that? And can you tell me a little bit about the experience? What were you feeling? I mean, being in a World Cup is so big already, and now you're able to get, a trophy that's saying you got the best goal in the tournament. How was that for you?
Oh my gosh, I would say like the same thing that I talked about earlier, is just being in shock. um But, oh my gosh, that was so long ago now, it's like 6 or 7 years ago. So, the way that all started, well, my dad was born in Mexico, my mom was born in Hawaii, so I'm a dual citizen, and so I'm able to, I guess, play for both countries. And one time I was in Surf Cup and we were just in between games. In Surf Cup, there's like a bunch of fields and it's really open and everyone's just walking in between the fields or whatever. So my dad and I are walking and my dad goes, oh my gosh, that's the coach for the Mexican women's national team. And they were there scouting at the games. And I was just like, okay, because we had never talked about this. And I had never even thought of the possibility of being on a national team yet. Like it just wasn't in my head. And I was like, okay, cool, dad. Like, do you know them? Like, do you want to say hi to them? Like, I don't I don't know what I was thinking, but he was like, no, but you should introduce yourself. And I was like, dad, I don't speak Spanish. Like, what are you talking about? My Spanish is my dad's first language, but my mom doesn't speak. She's not Hispanic, so it's always English in the household. Um, but I was just like, that's a terrible idea, you know? And my dad was like, they speak English too. Like, don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, but like, what do I say? Like, I don't get it. Why am I introducing myself to them? And my dad is like, well, it's because later this year, there's the World Cup qualifiers for U17s and you'd be eligible. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, we have not talked about this. So anyway, we go introduce myself, and my dad is speaking Spanish. I don't know what's happening. And after the conversation, my dad tells me, okay, you have a tryout at this time or this day in Mexico City. We need to go get your passport right now. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So then fast forward, and I am now in Mexico City, and it was a week tryout. So it was like a camp kind of. And so I was here for a week, and it was terrifying because I was 15. I didn't speak Spanish. And It was my first time traveling alone out of the country, just a lot of firsts. I did not know one person that was there at the camp. Um, and so, yeah, it was scary, but I quickly learned 2 things. 1, the elevation in Mexico City sucks, and 2, that you don't need to speak the same language to play soccer. So, I remember my first day, it was horrible because all these girls are like, "What is this gringa doing here? Like, we don't want her." And then we had no practice that day, so it was just, eat, sleep, whatever, socialize, which I did none of. And then the next day we finally had practice, and then that's when people actually started to like me because they're like, "Okay, good, she can play soccer." So then fast forward to October, now we're getting ready for World Cup qualifiers, and the way that they did it was kind of, like, really scary, but they didn't tell us who made the team until the day before the trip to Jamaica. So we had, like, a 3-week camp, and then at the end of the camp, you would find out if you made it or not. Then the next day, you'd either fly home or you'd fly to World Cup qualifiers. So that was really scary. But anyway, I made it, and we had that for me, the World Cup qualifiers was probably crazier feeling and just so in shock for me more than the World Cup even because only 2 teams were gonna be able to qualify from CONCACAF, and the US and Canada were obviously favorites, and it was kind of just like everyone in the media, the announcers, they just everyone assumed that the US and Canada were going to be the 2 teams to qualify, and that was it. And it was just gonna be like who was gonna win. And so anyway, we had our 3, um, group stage games, and we did well. I was playing center forward at the time. I was wearing jersey number 9. They make your numbers based off positions, and, I did well. I got a few goals and a couple player of the game awards, and then we went and we played US for the semifinals. So if we won, that means the US wouldn't go to the World Cup. So it was like this huge game and it was terrifying. And in the game before, we played Jamaica, and this really tall, strong girl accidentally elbowed me in the face when she turned, and I'm very short, and she just broke my nose, like just from turning. And so I remember being so scared for the US game, and my nose was all bandaged up, and because I couldn't get surgery or they would take me out of the tournament. So the freaking doctor just like cracked it into place on the spot. And then every night she would like keep cracking it into place. It's still so crooked. And so it was just like it was so nerve-wracking, and we ended up beating them in PKs, and it was crazy, and I have never seen those coaches so happy because they're very, very strict, but our coaches were just like, wow, throwing a party. And then so we qualified. That was like the game, like for sure us and Canada qualified, and then we would have the finals and see who won qualifiers or whatever, but we qualified, and it was just the craziest thing because I don't even know if our coaches thought we could do it, but we did it, and they gave us all of the support and like, "Yeah, like, you guys can do it," but I don't really know if anyone thought that we were gonna beat them because they were really good, and I'm, like, the same age as Mallory Pugh, so that was her team, and so it was just really crazy, and my parents and my siblings ended up flying out to Jamaica, so they were there, and my dad was like, "I can't believe this, like, we just spent our whole life savings coming here, and now we're gonna have to figure out how to go to Costa Rica." But, so yeah, no, that experience was incredible, and then we won qualifiers, and it was the first time in the women's Mexico history, and it was just all so crazy, and this is in October, and then we have camp again in, like, November or whatever because the World Cup was in March, and it was just, like, a complete restart. It was like, "Okay, now you have to try to make the team again because it wasn't the same team, and so we had, like, several camps, and people would get cut in the middle of camp, or more people would come, and it was just, like, terrifying. So then we go to Costa Rica. This time I'm number 7 because I'm a right mid, and, um, also just a crazy experience, but it was more, like, insane to me because my grandma, my dad's mom, was able to fly to Costa Rica to watch me play, and she is the reason why I'm a Mexican citizen. So I think seeing her, seeing me on the field, singing the anthem with the freaking national jersey was the craziest thing for me. That was, I don't know, that got me so emotional because I was like, "Oh shoot, like this is serious." And then we're in our first game against Colombia, and it was like right after we scored our first goal, so it was 1-0, and my teammate crossed the ball and the defender missed it, and it's literally me just alone in front of the goal with the goalie, and I tripped and I just fell, just straight flat on my face, and then the goalie went and picked up the ball, and it was so embarrassing, and my dad sends me that video still all the time. And then about 2 minutes later, I scored a banger, so then I redeemed myself, but it was so horrible, and I was like, "Why am I even on this field? Why am I" like, I don't know, I just feel like I do a lot of things like that, like, I'll do something so embarrassing and horrible, and then I'll do something pretty cool, and it's okay. So, I ended up scoring, I think, yeah, 2 goals, a couple assists, 1 player of the match, and then at the end of the and then we lost to Japan in quarterfinals, but they ended up winning the whole thing, so it's okay, right? And then, after the tournament, there was, like, 10 goals that they put aside for the public to vote on or whatever, and my first goal was one of them, and then it ended up winning, and I think that that was really crazy because I remember when my dad sent me the news, it was on this newspaper, and it was my article of winning the best goal of the tournament next to an article about Messi, and my dad was like, "I don't think that I would have ever thought that this would ever happen in your life, like, we need to frame this." So, yeah, that was pretty cool, but I still just always think about me tripping first. So,
You'll definitely never forget that moment when you fall and just so embarrassing being at such a high tournament, World Cup, and that's your first thing you do. But like we talked about, I mean, being able to be there, scoring goals, getting assists, I mean, that's what you live for as an athlete. And those experiences are what, keep us motivated all the time to keep on going and wanting to go to another World Cup, wanting to score more goals and be a pro. And you weren't a pro back then when you're in the World Cup. So now seeing that you are, it's just like, all right, all of that paid off. And now hopefully you grow more and more and see where you end up. Hopefully, like I said, you score more goals at America, get more assists, and like you said, you're living the life. Your dreams come true, and it's amazing as an athlete. And I want to thank you so much for being part of this week's episode on the hashtag Let's Kick It series. And I wish you nothing but the best.
aw, thank you for having me and listening to me.
No problem. I want to thank you, like I said before, thank you, Janae, for being part of this week's episode on the hashtag Let's Kick It series. Tune in next week. We'll have another athlete come in and tell us their story.